My name is Jason, and this is Just Watches. Okay, today we have a very interesting watch that was lent in for review. This is the A-1 from Ando. And you may notice right away, this is not the type of style of watch that you see every day. But before we get to the review, if you're enjoying the content of this channel, I invite you to subscribe. And if you're enjoying the content of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Now for price and availability, this watch comes in 4 colorways and is currently available on the Ando website for €280. So I never cover packaging on this channel, but the way this watch was packaged was so cool, I had to mention it. So right from the front of the box, you can actually see the watch itself, and then it lists all the dimensions. And then when you flip it over, you can actually see the movement, which is so cool. Then there's a QR code you can scan for additional details, and then all the specs are listed on the left-hand side. Then when you do open the package, this card here, the front is your 1-year warranty, and then if you flip it over to the back side, you have instructions on how to set the watch and then some tips. And then finally the watch itself is right there in the package. I think packaging is really creative and it really fits the overall aesthetic of this watch. So the dimensions on this watch are a little strange, but it's 37 in diameter, it's 42 millimeters lug to lug, it's 11.5 millimeters thick, and then it has a 20 millimeter lug width opening. Now on the stock strap, it weighs in at 68 grams. Now this watch has a really cool asymmetrical design. It's a bit difficult to describe, but I'll try to do my best. It's basically a round case on the left, but then that right side is square, and that is where you find the opening to access the crown. And then that's totally flat, so the watch is designed to be worn on your left wrist, and then that crown will not dig into your wrist due to that flat side. Now the finish on this one is completely bead blasted, which helps with the minimalistic styling. And then on 2 of the colorways, you do actually have an all blacked out case. Now I think this looks really cool on the wrist, and then the case is actually really thin. It's only 11.5 millimeters thick, although just because of the geometry of the case, it does look a bit tall from the side. One other interesting note on this case, it was successfully kickstarted, and you can actually just buy this case if you would like to use it for modding. Now obviously the Seiko NH movements fit in here, and there's some pictures on the website of some pretty cool mods that people have done so far. So this watch comes with a genuine leather strap that starts at 20 millimeters and tapers down to 17.5 millimeters. Now the strap is soft and pliable, and I think it's totally serviceable, just not noteworthy. Luckily, it does have a 20 millimeter lug width, and it is quick release, so if you want to try some other straps on this, it's going to be really easy to find some options. And then finally, the strap is signed on the back as well as on the buckle. The caseback is held in place with 4 screws and does have an exhibition window, which gives you a view of the NH36. The edge of the caseback is black, which is an interesting touch of color on the case. Now, this is also one of the few places that Ando branded the watch, because you may have noticed they didn't put any branding or text on the dial. Finally, this case only provides 50 meters of water resistance, but as this is more of a casual style watch, that isn't a problem for me. Then this watch is powered by the NH36. This is a hacking hand-wetting 21,600 vibration per hour movement with a 42-hour power reserve and a stated accuracy of -20 to +40 seconds a day. Now, I usually find these running about plus or minus 10 seconds a day, but this one is running plus 19 seconds a day in the dial-up position, and then much faster at about plus 30 seconds a day in the crown-up position. But this is an anomaly for these movements, and this is a review watch, so it's really been through its paces. And then I'm sure if you got one of these new from Ando, they would work with you to make sure that it's running in spec. The 5mm push-pull crown is tucked away on the flat side of the case and is signed with the Ando A. Now this is nice because the crown won't dig into your wrist, but I also find it makes it a bit tricky to operate this watch despite the cutaways in the case. I just can't quite get a good grip on that crown. The flat sapphire crystal is flush to the bezel. A flat crystal here is another great choice because I think it's in line with the minimalistic design overall. Also, it's great that they're using sapphire at this price point. Now this dial is very interesting. For one, there is 0 writing, branding, or logo on the dial, which really commits and adds to that minimalistic design. Second, this is actually a 2-level dial. The bottom white layer actually has a second layer in the shape of a donut on top, which is black, and both of these layers have a textured finish. Now the color of these elements vary depending on the colorway, but they all share this layered design. The upper layer has a cutaway for each of the hour indices and to make room for the day and date. The outer rim of that upper circle actually lines up with the border between the day and date nicely as well, which is something that if it didn't would really bother me. And then finally, all of the cutout for the hours are filled with Lume. The hour and minute hands are simple, high polished batons filled with Lume. Now, the hour hand terminates right between the two layers of the dial, and I really like that. I'm a little bit less of a fan of the length of the minute and second hand. I'd like to see them both be a bit longer. And then that second hand is just a thin, high polish hand, and then all three of them lack any counterbalance. Now the hands and indices are lumed here. However, you'll notice the lume isn't that bright. It doesn't last that long either. It also fades on the hands before kind of completely fading when you're comparing it to a Seiko. And here is the watch on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. This is going to be a very friendly size despite its sort of strange shape. It wears really well. And then from the side you can see it's a little thick, but technically it is a very thin watch. It just has that appearance because of the geometry of the case. For pros and cons, starting with the pros. First, this watch is doing what micro brands do best, and that's being bold and creative in their design. While they could have played it safe and made a diver, the micro brand space is flooded with those, and this is way more interesting. Second, I actually really do like the case shape they designed. I think it's really interesting and it's very comfortable on wrist. Finally, I find myself liking this minimalistic design, which surprises me because I don't tend to like this style of watch. For cons, I wish the hour and minute hand were a bit thicker and that the minute hand and second hands were a touch longer. Second, the lume is quite weak. I think if a watch is gonna have lume, I want it to be very strong. And then finally, this isn't really a spec monster at its price point, but if you're looking for a watch just for pure specs, this probably isn't the type of watch you would be considering anyways. As for comparables, well, this is going to be a really tricky one. Of course, you can look at watches like the Seiko Ripley, but those are no longer being made and are expensive to get a hold of. I suppose maybe the Hamilton Ventura might fall into this category if you're willing to spend quite a bit more. As far as I know, there aren't really many comparables to this watch that are currently available on the market, but if I'm missing one, please let me know in the comment section below. So there you have it, a very interesting watch from Ando. What do you think about this watch? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, if you're enjoying the contents of this channel, I invite you to subscribe. And if you like the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. That's all for this time. My name is Jason, and you have been watching Just Watches.